Woohoo! Happy birthday to me! Woo! I'm 18 now, which means my opinion matters way more than yours. And that you youngins should listen up to me because I'm your elder. And older folk, listen to my young energy. You guys can use some. Everything I'm gonna talk about in today's video are gonna be the lessons that were most impactful for the specific age of my life, from 12 to 18. And believing otherwise doesn't make you inherently wrong. However, all the smart people agree with the lessons and the opinions I talk about in this video. Well, age 16 might call that into question, but we'll get to that. I really think I hit the whole teenage experience with this list, and I'm sure you guys are gonna relate to most things here and hopefully find some use out of them. When I was 12-teen, I learned a lesson that everyone who isn't born obscenely wealthy has to learn at some point. The lesson that life isn't fair. But I also learned an important second part that I think a lot of people are missing out these days. That being that hard work is rewarded. So this taught me two things. I learned that life isn't fair, but that hard work equals reward. Pretty obvious. But I think even more importantly, I learned that you can contradict as long as you're not black and white about it. As long as you're not 100% heels in the sand for one side. Learning that life isn't fair taught me why bad people can have more money than you and get more friends than you and get a hotter girl than you. But learning that second part about how hard work is rewarded taught me that sitting on the couch and eating potato chips isn't as good as working. Even if life isn't fair, being disciplined and working is still the right thing to do. Even if you're not happy with the results now, you can still work towards them happening. This is something that gave me the motivation that you need to work on something like YouTube. And for as long as I have so far, I mean, I've put in a decent amount of effort for the last year, and I'm at 700 subscribers. If I truly thought that life wasn't fair and that hard work wasn't rewarded, I would have stopped already. But learning that you can be contradictory, as long as you're not black and white, taught me that thinking in black and white is what is easy. It's what so many people want to do, because it doesn't take a lot of critical thinking. But a lot of the truth lies where it's a little unclear, and there's a lot more gray where there is truth. Being a gamer pays off in a time of international quarantining. I want to preface this off with an acknowledgement that I also made in my nostalgia video. COVID was a time of great torment, suffering, loneliness, and lost jobs for families. I was lucky that during COVID, I kind of just got a pause on most of my problems, which were mostly social and academic, where I wasn't making a whole lot of friends at school and my grades in certain classes were slipping and I needed to put in a lot of effort into getting those up, and that my mom got to go on unemployment and make more money than she was making when she had a job, and my dad went from having to drive 30 minutes into his job every day to being able to work home every single day, making the same amount of money, and still works from home to this day. And I just got to focus on playing video games and watching YouTube for like 2 years of my life, which is the stuff I did in my free time anyways. So yeah, I got pretty lucky. Unsurprisingly, my 13-year-old self didn't have a huge interest in spending this time on productive means. I ran my Minecraft hours and Roblox hours through the absolute roof and watched a lot of YouTube videos about this one game called House Party. Do not look up that game. Please don't. Basically, I learned if you're in a state or a country where you're forced to stay inside for 18 months, basically, and have parents that completely support the quarantine, then you better like some video games or get some hobbies that are gonna take up hours and hours and hours of your time at home. You have to put yourself out there in order to not be a cow, in order not to be an outcast with no friends. I moved school 3 times in life. Once in 4th grade, once in 6th grade, and once in 9th grade. During my moves in 4th and 6th grade, I was quiet, secluded, and introverted. And the only reason I got any friends and wasn't completely lonely was because of nice kids inviting me to their lunch tables and introducing me to their friend groups, because they saw how quiet, lonely, and sad I was. Thank you, Julian from 4th grade, and thank you, David from 6th grade. You guys are real ones. The absolute G's of this world. I realized I didn't want to stay dependent on kindness from other people for my social and friend well-being. So during my freshman year of high school, I decided I was going to do something a little crazy. For the first few days of school, I was going to talk to other students. You mean I don't just stand there and play on my phone and just look down my paper and listen to the teacher? I actually have to like talk to other students? Well, obviously, it was my first year doing this and it did not go over very well. For icebreakers on my day of freshman orientation, I did not jive all that well with the two girls there. Like, it was all right, but nothing too crazy. One of the guys already had an established friend group, and so I wasn't going into that. And then the one kid I jived with was very annoying to the other kids, kept me away from a lot of friendships. Spent all his lunches inside playing cool math games and watching anime, even when we were allowed to eat lunch and play games outside, and left the school like 3 months in. But, you know, maybe there was a magical plan part of this, and eventually I still was able to get a friend group because I was jiving with the kid in my math class. And besides this awkward stretch where I basically let him sit by himself for a month while I sat with 3 kids that I didn't really like, even though we were literally within arm's reach distance of each other, I just watched him sit at a table by himself while I sat with other people I didn't care about. We ended up creating a friend group around ourselves, and it's lasted all 4 years of high school. Certainly into college. It won't collapse when we all leave for college. Yes, it will. So basically with making friends, you get out what you put in. If you don't put effort into trying to talk to people and make friends, you're not gonna talk to people or make any friends. It's that simple. And it's really just a rule for life. You get out what you put in. Some people have different interest rates, but if you put in nothing, the interest rate doesn't matter. Currently putting a towel on my chair because of all the water and ice on it. You guys seriously have to subscribe for all this effort I'm putting into a new scene. Daydreaming about women isn't helpful. So I actually logically convinced myself that daydreaming about women was okay. It was actually a good thing. I should be daydreaming about women more often. I thought daydreaming about women could train me on how to be in a relationship and to treat women right without, actually dating one of those things. That was a joke, right? Okay, I'm not trying to say that they're objects. Because I was never gonna get in a relationship. It was kind of just a rationalization for me not to talk to women. Instead I'll just daydream about them and like what I'll do when I'm older and I'm ready to be in a relationship. Even talking to women on Snapchat was too scary for me at a certain time period. Well, this time period of being 15. I remember vividly a time when I was sleeping over at my grandmother's house, I think during the summer, and I couldn't sleep. So I just spent like 2 hours daydreaming about what me and this girl, who I hadn't seen in 2 years at this point, were gonna be like as a couple. And how we were gonna meet each other, and what we were gonna act like when we were on the bus together, and what we were gonna do on the plane together, and how we were gonna raise our kids. Like it got deep, bro. This was honestly just probably my reaction against being lonely and feeling insecure and being unconfident and feeling like I didn't know how to talk to women after being in COVID for 2 years. Because it is so much smarter to talk to women, to befriend women, to understand women, to ask women out than it is to dream about them. Isn't that a little strange? I mean, I think it would even be strange if I knew there were women just daydreaming about me. And we're supposed to be okay with this creepy stuff more. It's scary, asking women out, talking to them, than it is about daydreaming. But you gotta at least understand that it's the right thing to do. And that took me a long time to understand. And it's still something I have to do better putting into practice. But which way, young man? Romanticizing about women or talking to the women? You choose. So, before you leave, zero preaching here. You also have to notice the little cross over here on my wall a little more and listen to my story because I think it's relatable and at minimum an entertaining roller coaster. I was brought up in an anti-theist house, which is different from atheists, which are just people that don't believe in God, or agnostics who aren't sure if God doesn't exist. My parents were actually agnostic, but they believed that religion was bad and that these preachers and Christians were just there to convert them and to take control of them and get them to pay money and not there to connect or love them. So I lived in a household where religion was openly mocked and viewed as quite strange for people that partook in it. I didn't really talk to anyone about their religion until high school. I knew that one of my middle school friends was a Catholic, but he didn't really talk about it that much, so I basically just had stereotypes to go off of what Christians were in atheist circles. I mean, heck, I didn't learn the 10 Commandments until high school. Ninth grade was the first year I even heard of what the 10 Commandments were. But in high school, I had a strange coming to religion, much different than other people. Most people are convinced by their personal experiences, not by rational arguments, but by experiences that they have and the experiences of other people. Now, I was being convinced by, in some of my journals, I wrote about this stuff, was Christians having better mental health than non-Christians, birth rates being higher for Christians. Right-wing history channels tell me that societies without religion will always fall apart, and talked about how this is happening in Europe and China, Russia, and the secular West. Christian countries or countries with Christian cultures being so much richer than the average. Basically, nothing about God or Jesus or personal experience, but more so about like the good statistics of Christians. Whew. Man, I'm autistic. And hey, whoa, before you get typing in the keyboard section, I am actually autistic, so I'm allowed to say that, okay? Okay? Listen, you're allowed to make fun of your group, so don't get mad at me. I can make fun of the tisms. However, it's not like I was even super fair with like the stats I looked at. Like I ignored the income statistics where atheists are better than most theists, except for a few groups like Anglicans and Presbyterians, Hindus, and Jews. Possibly intelligence, although of course intelligence is complicated, but from many studies they've shown atheists on average have higher IQ scores. And Richard Dawkins' arguments about the danger of religion. It's not a start to religion that I love thinking about, given it's so different than what I focus on now. Like I still understand like all these statistics about Christianity, and it makes me happy that I am Christian, but I think so much more about Jesus. But I am, of course, still happy that I was able to go on this path towards God. Anyways, I was never gonna talk about this with my parents, because they were definitely gonna have a freak out. They were definitely gonna cause issues in the house, because I don't think I ever heard my parents say one nice thing about a Christian. And when my parents had to bring up people in our family that were religious, it was always in a neutral, no opinion word sense, or just straight up calling them idiots. I didn't actually convert when I saw these statistics. It took me like 2 years and going to a getaway camp where one of my friends answered a few of my questions about religion, and he was like, yeah, you can just say that you're Christian and that's what it is. I'm like, really? I don't have to like go to church or anything? I just say that I'm Christian? He's like, yeah. Like, okay, I'm Christian. But the most fun were my parents' reactions when I told them like a month afterwards that I had converted. That's a story for another day though, because anytime I think about that story, talk about that story, it gives a lot of emotion. And maybe for 100,000 subscribers, I'll show my fans on Patreon after they give me $10,000 the story. But basically believing that God is real, it's completely changed like what I focus on in life. Like as a secular young man, it was always about like, how can I get laid? How can I get money? How can I have as many kids as possible? You know, all these counting numbers that make you feel good and your chest pumps out more. Now, focus more on how I can deepen my relationship with Christ and how I can start a family secondly, but mostly how I can live godly and connect with Christ. I'm not saying one way is inherently better or not. Of course, I think that the Christian way is better. I still try to listen to atheist content creators like Genetically Modified Skeptic, who I listen to, and man, he's annoying, bringing up like good points and whatnot. Like just confirm my beliefs and stop challenging me. Like, what the heck, bro? Then I also listen to Redeemed Zoomer as like a theist on the other side, and those two make up like probably a majority of my listening on YouTube, because I only listen like an hour a day or so. Not telling you to convert or anything, but it just, when you go from an atheist to a theist life or a theist to an atheist life, it's going to change you dramatically. And that's been the biggest change over the last 3 years, for sure. Focus on the personality fundamentals and don't overuse sarcasm. One of the most important things that I'm always surprised that people deny is that personality changes. Some people think that we're just created as we are, and you know, your bad characteristics are there to stay and your good ones are there to stay. That's just not true. And what this means is that becoming more humble, less narcissistic, and more kind are active things that you can work towards. And I would argue that becoming more like those things is more important than 100 grand dropping at your doorstep. I learned that you can change your personality by doing these exact things. Know something you want to prove about yourself. My big one is that I was always constantly arguing with people and trying to find a way to create an argument, something to tell them that they're wrong and I'm right. So when I affirm that in my mind, that I want to be less argumentative, every day when I would notice that I was being argumentative, I would apologize to the person I was arguing with. I'm being like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm arguing. I shouldn't be doing that. If you feel like you're acting too mean, say sorry right then and there. But then if you have one of those moments where it's like you're in the shower and you realize then that, oh man, that thing I did today, I was being kind of argumentative. Think about how you could have handled that better, but don't dwell on it more than like 10 to 15 minutes. Just think about, I got into that argument there and I felt like it was really important, but I could have just said, it's okay. Or I could have just said nothing. I could have just said, and just agreed. And the reason you want to do this so much is that changing your personality just makes you a better person to be around, a better person in business, a better person in relationships, a better person in religion, social ties, everything. And can't lie, it just feels nice when you're nice. And my last year, 18. And it's about the age itself. When you turn 18, there is no rite of passage for you. Nothing changes. Like I always thought about when I was a kid, that something would happen at 18. Like I knew it wouldn't be like I grew a beard that day, or I sprouted an extra 2 feet, or I instantly started having more responsibility. But I expected something to change. But last month when I was 17 and this month when I'm 18, nothing has changed for me. It's just been the same life. Parents are treating me the same, friends are treating me the same. The only difference is that I can sign up for my own financial accounts, but that hasn't really been that big of a change. I'm sure the real rite of passage will start when I first move out of my house. Whether that's gonna be in 6 months or 6 years, I don't know, but living on my own or without my parents will probably be the first rite of passage. But if you're like 15 or 16, just know nothing crazy happens when you're 18. You get to gamble, but it's something you really shouldn't be doing, and you get to sign up for credit cards, and be smart with that. Very helpful, but be smart with it. I hope everyone learned a few things about being a teenager and my personal experience with being it. If you are hungry for more, I've got a video about how you can radically change your life by doing absolutely nothing. Seriously, it's a fun video, and you're for sure gonna get value from it and completely revolutionize how you deal with social media and technology. You can check that video out right here. And don't forget to put in the personality work, talk to women, and think better. I'll catch you over in this video right here.